I wish I could tell you this started with something noble, but it started with me on cold concrete behind a takeout joint in Cleveland, hands up, voice shaking, saying, "Don't hurt me, I can't walk." And a man in a slate suit kneeling like I was a person and not a mess. He said his name was Graham and asked if he could call an ambulance, and I nodded because the truth is, I was done being brave in the wrong way. The worst pain wasn't the ribs Trent had kicked, or the legs that wouldn't answer it, was the silence in our apartment. After he left the refrigerator humming like nothing had happened, while I tasted metal and counted the breaths it took to crawl to the door, down 3 flights on my elbows and hips, praying nobody opened their door, and decided I wasn't worth the trouble. The ER lights were cruel, but the news was almost kind. No breaks in the legs, 2 cracked ribs, a bruised spinal cord that quit on me but might forgive me with therapy if I fought for it. The doctor asked who did it, and I stared at the ceiling and said my husband Graham stood there steady like a dock in a storm, and said he could help with a shelter, a lawyer, a plan, if I wanted it. Those 4 words mattered because he didn't grab the wheel, he waited, and the yes came from my mouth, not his. We drove through Shaker Heights, where the streets looked like postcards were born there, to a big house that smelled like laundry and hope. Not a mansion out of TV, a home that had seen Christmas mornings and piano recitals. Ruthie, the house manager, hugged me like somebody's mom, who'd decided I could borrow the feeling upstairs. A blue room held a bed that didn't sag, and a window that promised the world still turned. I slept like the dead, and woke up to Eva in the doorway, ticks. Serious as an owl, pumpkin sweater in late November, because kids don't care about your fashion calendar. "Are you broken?" she asked, and I said a little. "Are you going to heaven?" she asked, and I told her. "Not today," she nodded like I passed a pop quiz, and I laughed. The sound surprised me on the way out. Rehab isn't glamorous unless 5 steps with a walker is the Met Gala, and that day it was Kiana. My physical therapist said, "Your body remembers, we're just reminding it." I cried once from pain, and once because the mirror showed more than bruises. It showed me showing up for myself again. Graham checked in without hovering, made coffee like it was a love language, told me he was a widower. His wife Monica had made him promise to help people when he could. "Sometimes you get to be the person who shows up," he said, and I believed him because he was already doing it. Alicia Park, the lawyer, wore cardigans like a librarian and teeth like a shark. We took photos of the evidence I wanted to forget. She slid divorce papers across a smooth table. I signed the pen, felt heavy, then light. I cried in the car, and then I didn't. Healing shows up like that, not fireworks, more like a lamp that somebody finally plugs in. The house taught me to love the ordinary again, reading to Eva about a mouse detective, while she corrected my voices, Ruthie telling me her boy's nonsense while the dryer clicked. Graham asking how was PT, and actually waiting for the whole answer. He asked what I used to love, and I told him teaching had been the plan before Trent convinced me our budget couldn't hold my dreams. "I can't buy you a life," Graham said, "but I can buy you time so you can build one." We looked at courses together he didn't push. He turned the idea of future from a threat into a promise. 2 weeks later, the cane replaced the walker. Alicia texted that the papers had been served. I slept hard, and on a Sunday morning, the doorbell broke the quiet. The gate camera showed a cheap coat and a face I knew too well. Trent stood there like a stain. My stomach went cold, and my knees wanted to quit. Eva yelled from upstairs, "Who is it?" And Graham's eyes didn't leave mine as he said, "Stay here," in that voice he used for people who needed the truth. He hit the intercom and said, "You need to leave." Trent leaned into the lens like he wanted to crawl through it. "I want to talk to my wife," he said. My thumb found the button. "Ex-wife." I said, "You don't get to talk to me anymore." He laughed, thin and mean. "You think Prince Charming cares about you? He's getting a savior fix. When he's done, he'll toss you back." and something inside me that used to be afraid stood up straight and refused to sit back down. Graham didn't puff up or posture. He just sounded like a banker closing a file. "Mr. Wallace, you're trespassing. You will be served with a protective order. Today, I'm prepared to offer a one-time settlement in exchange for a non-contact agreement and relocation. 35,000 half on signature half when you're verified out-of-state consent to judgment. If you violate." The wind through the maples was loud in the quiet. Trent tried 50. Graham said 35 final. Then silence, then fine. And I pressed the button one more time and said, "I crawled for the last time." I shook so hard afterward my teeth clicked. Ruthie brewed tea strong enough to walk. I told Graham I hated that money could end something. Fists had started, he said. "Money isn't justice, it's a lock on a door. We can talk justice when you're sleeping through the night. Today I'm buying you quiet." Yeah, that happened. And by sunset, the gate camera watched a duffel and a man disappear. Sometimes wins are ugly. They're still wins, you know what I mean? We went to a little Italian place on Cedar Road to celebrate the protective order, he said. "Finish your degree." And I kept trying to say thank you. And he kept shaking his head like thanks wasn't the point. The point was a life, I told him. I wasn't ready for anything that could break me if it broke, he said. "I can wait." Like time was something he respected, not a weapon. Eva drew a picture of 3 stick figures and a cat we didn't have yet. "That's our future. Her name is Pancake," she announced. I taped it to the fridge and tried not to cry, failed. Ruthie patted my shoulder. "Nobody passes the don't cry at fridge art test," she said. Thanksgiving was golden and noisy. Graham's parents brought enough green beans to feed a town. My mom came with sweet potato casserole and the look of a woman who lost her child for 2 years and refuses to let go again. After dinner, Graham's mom gave me a small velvet box, a locket from Monica. "Give it to the woman who makes my Jeremy laugh again," she said. Yes, apparently. Graham's government name is Jeremy. I put the locket on and promised a ghost I wasn't here to replace her, just to love the people she loved by Christmas. There was a house key in my stocking, and the way he said, "You're not staff, you're home," took the air right out of me in a good way. We moved like a team through laundry and homework and FAFSA forms. I passed 2 classes with grades that made 17-year-old me dance in the kitchen. In February, he took me somewhere with too many forks and asked me to marry him. And Ava popped out from behind a plant, whisper yelling, "Say yes." So I did 3 times for luck. We got married under the dogwood in April. My dress was deep blue because I didn't survive all that to blend into white. Our vows were handrails. I promised to say the hard thing. Kindly. I promised to choose boring. Good over dramatic, bad. Eva threw petals like she was feeding pigeons in Paris. If you want me to say it fixed me, I won't. It didn't. What it did was lay sunlight on old shadows until they faded enough that I could breathe without apologizing for the sound. Summer brought heat and nausea, and the nurse said, "Congratulations, a baby." The size of a blueberry had moved in. We called him Miles because Eva decided the baby needed a name to be properly briefed. "Good morning, Miles. It's me, your boss," she'd tell my stomach. He showed up in late March on a windy night. They laid him on my chest, and he looked at me like every newborn who's ever been evicted, offended, and perfect. "You took your time," I told him. He yawned. Fair that fall, I started teaching 3rd grade the first time a little girl flinched when a book fell. I didn't say "you're safe now," because we never promise what we can't guarantee. I said "I'm here and I'm staying." Her shoulders dropped half an inch. Teaching is 100 small repairs no one sees. I kept a photo on my desk of the four of us in matching pajamas, because apparently I've become that person, and I'm not sorry. If you were waiting for a courtroom speech and a gavel, we didn't get that. We got quiet, a lock on a door, a life that doesn't rattle. At midnight I wrestled with it. You can too. Is paying a man like Trent to leave a moral failure or a smart fence around what matters? Did money buy safety, or did it sweep justice under the rug? You know what I mean? Here's what I know. He didn't save me. He made the road less steep while I walked it. I signed. I stood. I stayed. The day I walked from the front door to the sidewalk without help. Ruthie clapped like I'd won Boston, and Graham laughed, like relief being loved didn't erase me, it made me louder. I still wear the locket. Monica on one side and our kids on the other. Grief and joy sharing a pocket. Some nights I stand at the back door listening to the dishwasher's steady chug, and I think about the alley, about how fast a life can turn if someone meets you there and refuses to leave you in it. So tell me what you think. Was the payout a necessary lock, or the wrong kind of mercy? Do we judge victims too hard for the choices they make to stay alive? What would you have done at that gate, and be honest? Would you take help from a billionaire single dad if he showed up at your worst hour? Or would pride make you walk the long way? Like it almost did me. Drop your take in the comments. Share this with someone who needs proof. A life can pivot, and tell me one small choice you made today that tilted you toward the light.